I want to talk to you briefly about mechanisms of injury in an automobile collision. And mechanisms of injury is simply the mechanism by which biomechanically an injury could occur to a person. In other words, how do the forces basically create injury to a person, and what are the injuries that one would expect to sustain as a result of a motor vehicle collision? All right, so although a whole bunch of injuries could occur to a person involved in a collision, I'm going to walk you through some of the things that you can expect or be looking for injuries that sustain when you're involved in a collision, okay? The first is, if I'm a driver and I'm involved, I'm sitting here in the car, and I'm involved in a front-end collision. Let's say I'm involved in a front-end collision, okay? Typically, I'm going to have both hands on the steering wheel. Although it happens so quick, it's possible I may only have one, but oftentimes people will brace right before impact if they have any time to respond at all. And you only have, a split second to make that decision, and maybe a second to put your body in the motion to brace for a collision that's unavoidable. At the time, you're also going to have your foot on the brake, if you can get your foot over there fast enough to get it on the brake. And at the time of impact, obviously your body's going forward. Now you have a seatbelt on, that's true, and it can brace you from going forward too far. But there are situations where it does happen quickly enough and the belt doesn't grab, you can hit your head on the steering wheel. You can also have problems with your wrist injuries. If the airbag is deployed, and typically it'll be deployed in the front end impact, but depending if it's offset by a little bit, or an underride where the car goes under the vehicle in front of it, or an override where it goes over the top, like if it's a smaller vehicle and you're going over the top, sometimes the airbag doesn't fire. So if the airbag fires, it comes out typically in 2 stages at 200 miles an hour. It's a double burn on the airbag, and it's going to hit you right in the face, which can knock you out, obviously. So you might sustain a head injury that way. You might also sustain a head injury by your head hitting the steering wheel. It's possible that you can come up out of your seat, depending upon if your car dives forward and goes underneath. Your head can come up and hit the bar across the top of the vehicle, and then throw you back in your seat. If you're stopped before your head goes to the ceiling, okay, the seat belt still is pulling on your shoulders, and it's very common to have shoulder injuries. Of course, your neck is sustaining maybe 3 gravitational forces greater than the rest of your body is sustaining, because the head, when it's flying forward, is creating more G-forces on your neck, which increase the probability of an injury to your neck. Also, you have joints on each side of your jaw called the temporomandibular joints, and in the event of a high-speed impact, you can easily tear one or both of those joints in your jaw, which later may necessitate surgery to reduce pain. So if you have a head injury, a head impact, and you don't have to hit your head actually to have traumatic brain injury. It's well documented that the forces of acceleration and deceleration are sufficient in an automobile collision to create a concussion, severe concussion, which is also referred to as a mild traumatic brain injury, without hitting your head. However, if you do hit your head, then the probabilities of a brain injury are increased dramatically. And some of the symptoms from a head injury are nauseousness and vomiting, dizziness, ringing in the ears, blurry vision, loss of consciousness, even if it's for a brief period of time. That period of time where you say, I remember seeing the car, I don't remember what happened until I looked over to my side and somebody was talking to me through my window, something like that. So that loss of consciousness is one of the things that can occur as a result of a head injury. After the initial impact and injury, as you start progressing through your treatment, be aware of the fact that some of the symptoms of a head injury that you want to be looking for are, do you have any loss of short-term memory? Are you forgetting things? You forget your keys, you forget the coffee pot's on, you forget the stove that's on, you're burning your food. You go to the grocery store, you forget what you're supposed to get. You're driving down the road and you don't remember where you're going. when you didn't have any of those problems before the impact. So those are things that are short-term memory loss issues. Anxiety about being on the road, fearful of getting hit again, just general increased general anxiety throughout your life, and the stress that's involved from a motor vehicle collision, but not being able to cope with that anxiety. Post-traumatic stress disorder. It's the same type of stress disorder that soldiers get when they are in war time and they're in combat, and that their lives are put in jeopardy. They receive post-traumatic stress disorder. It's the same thing that occurs to a human through any traumatic event, any stressful traumatic event. And one of them is clearly the trauma that's associated with a motor vehicle collision. So post-traumatic stress disorder. All those things are things that you need to be looking for and reporting to your doctor in the event that you have any of those issues. Jaw pain, so we move to the brain to the jaw pain. Jaw pain usually will have popping and clicking. When you're opening and closing your jaw, you'll hear a popping and a clicking on your one or both sides of your jaw, and it's typically always followed up with pain, either from a lot of chewing or talking. You get jaw pain. So the next area of injury is the neck. The neck injury can be localized, meaning on both sides, where you have trouble turning your neck from side to side, or this way, that way, or front to back. You can also have shooting pain down one or both, the other arm or both arms, all the way down to your fingertips, numbness and tingling in your fingertips. That is those are all indications of a neck injury. So if you feel pain going down your arm, you need to obviously report that to your doctor. It can come and go, or it could be constant. It could be numbness, tingling, it could be throbbing, it could be a burning sensation. So all that is neurological, typically coming from your neck. Now, you also have to be careful that if you have pain going from your neck all the way to your hands, that you're not forgetting about the shoulder, because it is also possible that you have a shoulder injury, and the doctor will have you rotate your shoulder to see if that's independently in pain, or lift your hand up over your head to see if your range of motion is restricted. So a lot of people with a neck injury forget about the shoulder injury. They're only reporting neck pain, even though they got pain going down their arm. They're not clear that they got neck and shoulder, and then later down the road, when they have some relief from the neck, the shoulder starts to hurt more, and then 6 months down the road they get an MRI of the shoulder and there's a tear there, and then the insurance companies are going to say, well, you didn't bring it up right away, so they've got a pretty good excuse now, if they were ever to go to a jury, to say that shoulder injury was not caused from the crash. It must have been something else. I mean, that's the way they kind of play that. So you got to be very careful that you're reporting all of your injuries when you go to the doctor, and report them every time to the doctor as you're treating throughout the course of the case. The next area is obviously mid-back, which starts from the base of your neck and goes up to about where your belly button is. If you put a line through your belly button to your back, that's the bottom end of your mid-back and the top end of your low back. And then from that point down your tailbone is the lumbar or low back area. So the pain that's associated typically with the lumbar can either be localized in your low back, or it can have shooting pain going down one leg, the other leg, or both legs, with numbness and tingling all the way down to your feet, or it could be without numbness and tingling down to your feet. So all those nerves come out of your spine and down your legs, and can go all the way into your feet. So those are some of the very typical injuries of a front-end impact. Also your wrists, as a result of bracing for the impact, that can cause damage to the medial nerves, which is a carpal tunnel injury. So a lot of people believe that, or have heard that carpal tunnel injury is a repetitive disorder injury from typing and so forth, and it can be. However, it can also be from a single traumatic event to that medial nerve, and it can cause traumatic carpal tunnel syndrome to be induced. So those are all the kinds of injuries that you can see in a front-end impact. Your body's going towards the collision in an impact, so in a T-bone from the left side, your body would go to the left. Obviously, there's a risk that your head is going to hit the glass or the B-pillar, so be cognizant of that. Your shoulder also is going to hit door or the window in a hard impact, and you have your seatbelt across, of course. But you can also have low back injuries. Knee injuries are also common by striking the door panel. And an impact to the other side, your body's going in this direction. So you're also getting that whipping motion with your head, right, in either direction. So it can cause neck injury as well, because your head goes towards the impact. On a side collision, it recoils, right? And in a front end impact, it's going forward and then back. And a rear end impact is going back and then forward. And in a rear end impact, although you do see back injuries, typically from people that might sit up a little bit further in their seat. Some people won't sit all the way back in their seat. If you're sitting all the way back in your seat, there's that protection of the seat, which generally can provide some level of protection in the event of a rear end impact. Nothing's foolproof. You know, the way cars are designed is to try and reduce the probability of injury, but every impact is different. All the forces are different. For any type of impact, every person is different. Their body position, their body mechanics are different. And so they're based on the way they're positioned at a particular time. If they're turned to the side, their spine can be completely tapped out with no shock absorption capabilities. You know, when you're standing straight up and down, you've got shock absorption. But when you twist your spine, there's no more shock absorption. So any impact from any direction has a much higher chance of creating an injury to the disc space. And just by way of example, here's a spine that just to give you a general idea as to what happens here. All right, so the top end of here's your head, here's the head, here's the pelvis area, and so this is the low back area here. And then your mid-back goes to about here. And then you have your cervical 7, C7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the space in between each of those vertebrae are called discs. And those discs are basically made up of the outside is kind of like the outside of a banana peel. The inside is kind of like pudding. And in the event of a hard impact, you can get a rupture of that outside protective layer, and when you do, it pushes on the nerve root endings that come out all the way down your spine, and they come down all the way down your fingertips, the ones in your neck, the ones in your lower back go all the way to your legs, and these nerve root endings, when they get pushed upon by the disc, because it's been ruptured, that's what causes that shooting pain or the numbness, the tingling, the pain that goes down your arms or your legs. So that's why spinal injuries are so common in automobile, motor vehicle collisions, motorcycle accidents, all those kinds of things where you've got high speed and impact that cause the spinal injuries. So those are basically some of the general mechanisms of injury that cause the injuries that we see very commonly in collisions with motor vehicles.